Thank you, Yvette. All right, good morning, everybody. Just another introduction. Scott Dolch, President and CEO of the Connecticut Restaurant Association. Thank you guys for joining on a beautiful May Wednesday morning. Just want to kind of give you guys a legislative update, but as you guys know, a week ago, our Connecticut legislative session ended late at midnight, CNADA. So Nicole Griffin, our contract lobbyist, actually Ryan O'Donnell is here today. Is that a TB12 goat hat you might have on, Ryan? I'm trying to figure out what you're wearing over there. I think you're on mute.
It is indeed a TB12 goat hat.
So it's a bandwagon jumper from the Patriots to the Buccaneers, but we'll leave that alone for another day. So obviously Nicole's, I hope you guys all know, Nicole's our contract lobbyist. Been with the association for almost 10 years now, Nicole, would you say, give or take, as a former executive director to our lobbyist. And then obviously Ryan O'Donnell from Ford Harrison as our legal counsel. I'll get into in a second, just the work that these two do down at the state capitol. It's phenomenal. We talk about the advocacy and the efforts that we do. It really starts with these two. So before I get over to them, I want to go through kind of a quick update of other things that are on the docket with the CRA. So I will try to share my screen. See if I can go back fast, and then we'll. All right. Everybody see that? Thumbs up, Nicole. Yes, working. Perfect. Okay. I don't have a picture of Ryan. Apologize, Ryan. I didn't know if you were going to be on or not this morning. Webinar speakers, including Ryan. Quick update so you guys know what we're going to go through. Just a CRA update. I'm going to give a little bit of a federal national update. I know some of you guys got some emails yesterday, and I received plenty of text messages and calls. So I will try to give you guys an update of where we are on a federal side. And obviously the big important part of this webinar is the legislative session and all that transpired throughout this short session we had, and we'll open up for Q&A. So let's start with this little CRA update for the group. There we go. First and foremost, thank you to those that have joined, new members as we continue to gain new members, but everyone that's been able to pay their dues for 2022. I know that we've been sending out just reminders and everything else, but we really appreciate your support. We wouldn't be able to do what we do without our members. So, the benefits of membership, we'll get into advocacy as you'll hear, but there's so many other things with working with our allied members, our events, networking opportunities, and just ways to help your business. Without question, that's really what we do here at the CRA. And I hope that you guys continue to see the value. It allows us to have the team that we do, allows us to advocate as much as we can. And we hope to continue to grow our membership. Just so you guys know, when I started 4 years ago, we had 372 members. We're now up over 2,100 out of 8,000 restaurants in the state. So when you are restaurants, caterers, private event venues. So we're about a quarter of the way, just give or take. That just shows our voice that we have and the growth potential that we continue to try to strive for. So any continued support, if you have any non-members on, or if you talk to other restaurants, your dollar, every dollar you spend on membership, I try to get 5 to 6 times more of that back, at least at a minimum, each and every year, towards your restaurant, helping benefit you. Obviously, you could see on here, the Allied Member Directory, our savings program. If you have any questions, please reach out to Yvette, as well as I'll introduce a new staff member in a second and the rest of our team. And then on our ServSafe side, as you guys know, we teach ServSafe classes almost every single Monday of the year throughout the state. Every time you have discount to CRA members to take our ServSafe manager classes. We also do ServSafe alcohol, which isn't on here, and food handler, Serve Success, other products with ServSafe. But please know, taking a class to the CRA directly benefits us directly. So that's the other piece to making sure and also our 2 instructors are 2 of the best in the country. They actually have like a 91 to 92%, I believe, passer rating for people taking their classes. Definitely they're in the top 5%, I believe, as instructors. So understanding that and looking online at ctrestaurant.org, you can see all of our classes. They are filling up quickly. I know we're going to be going back into Cisco next month for the first time in 2 years. I know that Rocky Hill class is always so popular. But please, and if you're looking for larger group classes, we can help you there too, or we can try to bring people to, bring our instructors to you directly if we can have. I think it's a little over 10, but we try to strive for 15. So we want to get other restaurants together to bring a group in and to certify you through ServSafe. I know my staff's going to kill me for this one, but I had to do it anyway. Just a quick update of staffing changes. So I apologize, it wasn't really in order, but got some photos online. So if you guys don't know, about a month ago, we announced that 2 of our staff members had been promoted. First and foremost, the top right, Yvette Tavares, has been promoted from our membership director to vice president of sales and operations. Yvette has been with me for 3.5 years and has been phenomenal, as you guys all know. So really excited for her kind of new role of taking over more of the sales operations and events in a bigger way with our team. So congrats, Yvette. And then I'll go to the bottom right first, just the way that the picture is when I put it in. Jennifer Cochran-Smith, who was on this morning, is our foundation director now, moving over kind of from our foundation manager and kind of managing ServSafe. Now she is fully working with the foundation, our 501c3. I'm going to get into a highlight of what happened with the foundation over the weekend in a second, but Jennifer is really trying to help grow our 501c3, having an impact on education, scholarship, workforce development, mental health, so much more that we can do as an industry through our foundation. And Jennifer is kind of taking the lead on that, and really, really excited for her and her new role with this. So congrats, Jennifer. And last but certainly not least, with the kind of a staffing update, Elizabeth Berry, or Liz, picture in the center. She actually started with us on Monday, comes to us as a server from Max Fish and Max Restaurant Group for almost well over, I think, 15, 20 years now. I forget how long that Liz has been there with Max Fish, but Liz is going to take over our operations assistant. Emily has moved on, as you guys know, for another role for her that she wanted to do, and really excited to bring Liz on, her experience with the industry, and kind of bringing a new energy into the office. So really excited for Liz, kind of taking a step outside of working within the industry and kind of working with the association. She has so many contacts, and excited for our team as we continue to have changes but grow, as you guys see. So I know they're probably mad at me that I put up photos this morning, but had to do it. So congrats, everybody. All right, let's see. Golf Classic, just a couple updates on things that are coming up. You guys probably saw the emails. Our Golf Classic is set for Monday, June 27th at Lyman Orchards. We're inside 7 weeks. We already have about 100 golfers, just about, give or take, already committed to playing. Last year we had 225. I think we'll easily sell out again. If you want to participate, it is an unbelievable day at Lyman. We use 36 holes, 2 18s. We have, a lot of sponsors stepping up, but obviously we want the restaurateurs there to bring their staffs. You could see in some of the photos, even on the bottom left, that was obviously afterwards. We do in the top right, a farm to table dinner. We had 4 phenomenal chefs last year, and Renee, Ashley, Emily, and Jess. We are working on our farm to table chefs this year. Actually, we just heard yesterday that David Standridge from Shipwright's Daughter is going to be one of our featured chefs, and we're working on other featured chefs for the event. So much fun. So we obviously play golf from 12 to 5. We have a cocktail hour, and then we have a farm to table dinner under the tent, as you see in that photo. And I don't know if anybody from the Eli Cannons or Taco Daddy or Hooter Brown are on this morning, but I'm going to try to give out an award this year for best dressed, as you can see from some of the photos, just having some fun with it. So please sign up at ctrestaurant.org/golf if interested, or any questions. Just a lot of fun, always a great day down at Lyman. So hope to see everybody there on June 27th. Thanks, Yvette, for the link. What I mentioned about Jennifer as our foundation director, as you guys probably know or saw in the news, back in March, we had what's called our Pro Start Invitational, our state-run invitational, which is where we have high schools from around Connecticut come in. We did it at Yard Goats at Dunkin' Donuts Park with the support of the Yard Goats team. We had 5 different high schools participate. The winning high school was actually Wilbur-Cross for both culinary and management. They traveled this past weekend down to Washington, D.C. and competed against 42 other states across the country. And in the top right, you can see our management team placed 4th out of 42, which is a phenomenal feat. We have won before, but it's our second highest finish. We're competing against states like California, Texas, that in their own state competitions have 70 to 80 high schools. So just showing the size and scale of those states, bringing it's only the only state winners of those 42 that come and compete. So we finished 4th in management and 11th in culinary, which was our second highest finish there as well. I think we finished 9th back in 2009. So you could see the team, the culinary team, bottom left, management team, top right. Just such a great feat for Wilbur-Cross, Chef Nate and Lisa and their whole team for what they do and were able to accomplish down in Washington, D.C. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it down there, but I know Jennifer was down there. And we're just continuing to try to grow our Pro Start program with other high schools around the state to have these great achievements showing what we do as an industry. So congrats to all of those young men and women for going down there representing Connecticut so well. All right, quick federal update. I'll get into kind of some of the emails in a second. Other things that we do, our CRA board and legislative committee, we invite each year to travel to Washington, D.C. We weren't able to go. It was a little PTSD for me. We hadn't been down to Washington, D.C. since a week before the shutdowns of the pandemic was the last time we had a public affairs conference. But, fortunate to have 8 restaurateurs come down with me, and DC this year was our largest contingent. I argued with other states that we probably had the largest number of restaurateurs that made the trip when you look at per capita. And what we did was, obviously we spent time with the National Restaurant Association. We had, different guest speakers from throughout the congressional delegation come and speak to us, talked about the issues that are at hand. You can see in some of the photos there's a picture with Senator Blumenthal, who gave us a tour of the Capitol and the U.S. Senate and spent some time talking about some of the issues with him. You can see the picture there with Congressman Larson. We actually were fortunate to meet with 6 of our 7 delegates. We actually were going to do all 7 in a quick 2-day span. Unfortunately, Senator Murphy got COVID. So we're going to do probably a follow-up with him. But, just so you guys know, we try to travel to DC. It isn't just a state issue that we focus on. We obviously focus on the federal issues. We thanked a lot of our delegates for the work that they had done, but obviously we know this fight is not over. As we look towards recovery, we talked about RRF. We talked about, the ERTC program and getting the Treasury to get these checks out. We talked about the 4th quarter ERTC. And we talked about, another program, which I'll get to on the next slide here in a second, which is the essential workers. So we'll go to RRF in 1 second, but ERTC funding, you guys know, we're trying to get all those checks out. We also are there's a bill in the House to try to reinstate Q4 of 2021, which we're all supportive of. And we've sent letters to the national. And then the third one is actually a unique one. It's what's called EWA, Essential Workers for Economic Advancement. We are trying to find solutions in the immigration side through hospitality. There's been visas given through the Farmers Act and other things that are out there. We feel that hospitality needs to be a focus. Trying to pass a major piece of immigration, legislation with the divisiveness down in DC is probably not a pathway that's going to happen anytime soon. But we're trying to show them that there's other ways that you can do it. And this program would offer about 200,000 visas over the next 3 years. We're going to continue to push that. You guys probably saw that call to action through national. But those are some of the conversations we had about how important and how much worker shortage is affecting our industry, and trying to find creative ways and easier ways and less red tape to hire staff. So those were discussions we had with each of our delegates. And then the RRF replenishment. Actually, I'll skip one more down at the bottom. As you guys know, I mentioned it before, Michelle Korsmo is now officially our new CEO of the National Restaurant Association. Thanks to Doug for taking that photo of Michelle and I. Michelle was down with us for public affairs. It just continues to show, I got a chance to introduce her to pretty much all of our restaurateurs that traveled down with us. She comes to us from the Wine Spirit Wholesalers Association. She was the national CEO there. As you guys all know, Larry Cafaro, at a state level, she did that at a national level. She comes from an association background. Really, really excited for Michelle. Spent a couple different stints with her throughout my week that I was down in DC. Excited for her to take over the helm now and kind of lead the National Association. So spent some time. So just updating you guys there that at a state level, we're really trying to continue to have a presence down at a national level. And then I'll skip to RRF replenishment. You guys probably saw an email last night, a couple different emails, one from the IRC talking about Senator Schumer in New York putting a bill on the floor for a vote next week. It does look like that's going to happen, but I temper everyone's expectations. This was a huge topic of discussion in all of our meetings inside the offices of each of our delegates in DC. Understand that is the Wicker Cardin bill. So there was a House version that passed. It looks like the Senate is not going to bring that bill out, but it'll bring out the Wicker Cardin, which are senators co-sponsored bipartisan bill. If it does go to the Senate floor for a vote, the issue is they need 60 votes, not 51. They need 60. There's still, in our view, not a pathway to 60. We are doing everything we can to push for those 60. But the things that I need everyone to understand is, the bill is $48 billion, $40 billion to replenish RRF, another $8 billion to help other sectors that are were hit hard. As an example, minor league sports, I believe some amusement, some other things that are in that $8 billion that don't affect the RRF. But that's the total of that bill. There's talk about, the Republicans feel if there's unused funds or there's other ways without printing new money, 100% want to support it, want to support the industry, want to get those checks out to people. The Democrats are, let's just print new money. It's not going to affect inflation, which is kind of laughable, or other things that are out there. That is where the riff is right now. I'm not, it's not a Republican Democrat issue in my view that, let's blame one side or the other. The issue is where we stand with all that is going on, all the challenges you're about to hear later today, new inflation numbers and things are going to come out on a federal level. You guys are all feeling it. You're feeling it, in what you're ordering. You're feeling it in the pricing challenges you're dealing with, worker shortage, all the other issues that are out there. This is something that is very difficult, I feel, to get through Congress. We are going to do everything we can. We are not stopping that fight, but I'm tempering expectations because I feel like even the IRC's email yesterday was very much like it's going to get on the vote. We hope to get this passed to help, over 170,000 restaurants to get them their money. 100% supportive of all of that. I would agree with the messaging. The challenge is just understanding what goes on in Washington. And I would tell anybody please do not expect that check. It would be a huge windfall for you if you get it. I totally get that. But I've been sharing with you since the money ran dry last June that you have to try to become as efficient as you can to run your business. And it's a great win if you get it, but understand that is such a challenge that we have in front of us to find that pathway because of the divisiveness in DC. Senate really hasn't passed much of anything over the last year. And this one is a difficult one. And they're trying to pin each other, as you go into the midterms, it's about politics. We are only, about 5 months away from the midterm elections. And that's a big part of this challenge right now. So know that there's going to be a grassroots activation from National in the next few days for you to go out and text 52886 to support RRF. All of our delegates, they're on the Democratic side. Both senators fully support this. The challenge is getting 10 Republican senators to, put right now 43 billion because they have about 5 billion, they think, in unused PPP funds, but they have to go find another 43 billion. That's the insider baseball. That's what's going on. There could be a vote as early as sometime next week. I think Schumer is also trying to put it at the face to blame Republicans, saying, hey, we put the vote out there. You didn't support your restaurants. That's what I think is going to play out. I also temper expectations with the IRC of how they're going to frame it with the National Restaurant Association. Over 300 restaurateurs from across the country were in DC representing the National Restaurant Association and the 52 state and state associations across the country with DC and Puerto Rico. We were all there. This was our number one issue. We talked all about it. So I just want to make sure everyone is clear that National has been pushing this, but it's just the pathway and the challenges in DC. So I guess I'll take a breath. I put our delegates up there that we met with and talked about, but I just want everyone to understand what has been going on. I've tried to share as much insider baseball as I can with RRF, and the challenges that really are here right now about trying to get another 43 to $48 billion passed out of the Senate. So, all right. Doesn't look like there's anything in the chat. I'm going to turn this over. I have one more slide before I give it to Nicole, and I'm really going to take a breath. So 2 slides. As you guys know, I just wanted this up there for important reason. You guys know expanded outdoor dining was passed through next April. I'm getting a lot of calls and texts, and so is my team, about challenges, still trying to figure out Greenwich and Stanford, about making it very, very difficult for you guys to get approvals and to get that outdoor space done. If you're feeling that, please reach out to us. Just like I said before, we don't just deal with state legislators, we deal with federal, and we also deal at a local level. In recent weeks, we've done outreach. We've done, one in New Haven. This is 2 pictures of us down in Stanford about 3.5 weeks ago, with Mayor Caroline Simmons and her new economic development head in Lauren. So we had a great meeting with about 50 restaurateurs from the Stanford area. This was a major issue that they're having in Stanford about getting their approvals for outdoor space. We're still trying to work through that. I'm trying to do this at a lot of local levels. It's really important to make sure you guys know, whether it's mayors or first selectmen, if you're having challenges, whether it is outdoor dining or really anything else, that's also part of our job at the CRA, is to make sure we do everything we can to make it easier for you. So it isn't just your state representatives or state senators or the governor or our federal delegates, it's also at a local level. So I share with that we had a great meeting. We're going to continue to do follow-up with Stanford. I'm trying to follow up with some other towns. We might do one in Fairfield soon. We're looking at Danbury and some other areas throughout the state to continue to build that relationship. And the last thing I'll say, the important thing about this meeting right here, and you see this photo of everyone in the picture, this kind of blew Mayor Simmons away, that she thought I'd have like 6 or 7 people show up. And I thank Michael Marchetti, if he's on, as well as the team at John Nealon and Morgan for hosting us. But getting almost 50 people that are all restaurant owner operators to sit in a meeting for an hour, a little over an hour, and talk to the mayor about the challenges that they're dealing with in Stanford was huge. And that's, your voice matters. It's not about one restaurant, it's about the collective that you guys can have, and that's really about our overall membership, but also at a local level. So thank you to those that attended that, but also know that we have to continue to do follow-up and build that rapport. Our industry is a $9 billion industry with 160,000 jobs in our state, and each city and town is the backbone of small businesses, and you guys are stronger together. So, and there, I'm going to turn it over to Nicole, you and Ryan, to kind of go through our legislative session that we had this year, and be happy to answer any questions that people have. So as you guys, quick introduction again, Nicole Griffin is our contract lobbyist from Powers, Griffin and Hill. And she is finally well rested after 20+ hour nights inside the state capitol for the last few weeks. So Nicole, the floor is yours. And if I miss something, we can go into it. And Ryan O'Donnell, again, is a quick introduction. Ford Harrison, our legal counsel, and works tirelessly with our whole team, making sure, as hard as everyone thinks bills are very easy to get done or pass, like outdoor dining, Ryan does a phenomenal job helping us on the legality on the bill, how it's written, making sure it doesn't have any liability challenges or other issues, and making sure it's going to help affect your business in a positive way. So Nicole.
Thanks, Scott. Morning, everyone. We just, as Scott said, we finished up the legislative session last Wednesday evening. This year was a short session, which allows the legislature to go out and everyone gets to run for re-election this year. So we've all been seeing the news, the governor and all of the constitutional officers, the state Senate and the state House of Representatives are all up for re-election this fall. We've got about 30, I think 3 or 34 legislators not seeking re-election. So we're going to have a whole new crop of folks elected to the state legislature come January of next year. So we'll have some changes in probably chairs and ranking members of committees. The governor has a re-election battle coming up in November, as do the constitutional officers. So legislators were excited to get out of the building last Wednesday. We don't expect to see a special session this year. The CRA faced a bunch of issues this year. I'll lead off with the one Scott just talked about, which is the extension of outdoor dining. Basically, what we wanted to do is allow for those restaurants that had taken advantage of the governor's executive order in the special act that was passed in 2021 to continue to do so for another year. So if you had taken advantage of the rules surrounding outdoor dining, you get to do so for a whole nother year. After that, things don't change a whole lot. So if I can kind of put it in three categories, there was pre-COVID, there was executive order the past year and the next year, and then there's starting in 2023. Starting in 2023, things don't change much from this year. You'll just have to go to your local town, your local municipality, and they'll have to approve your application through the local zoning or building official. So things shouldn't change much. As Scott mentioned, please reach out to us if you're having issues. I think some of this is still trickling down to the locals and they're not exactly sure how to handle things. This was one of the first pieces of legislation passed this year because we had an expiration date of March 31st. So hopefully things are running smooth in most towns. We're all available to help answer questions, Scott, Ryan, and I, and the whole CRA team. Some of the other issues that we dealt with this session, you've probably all read about in the news and in the papers, the unemployment trust during the pandemic. The state of Connecticut borrowed a lot of money from the federal government to deal with folks that were on unemployment. The state currently owes a little bit under $500 million back to the federal government. We worked with the entire business community to try to have money put into the budget, ARPA dollars specifically, to pay down some of that debt, some of that loan debt. In the end, the budget allocated $40 million towards that debt. It's not nearly what we had lobbied for and what we had hoped for. But that's the amount in there. We worked with CBIA and some other business trade association partners, hoping for more like $200 or $300 million. Last year, $150 million was put towards it. And this year, just $40 million was put towards it. So what does that mean for businesses? It means in a couple of years, we're likely to see some tax increases. We do plan to have this conversation again during the next legislative session, which begins in January, when the state will start to discuss a new biennial budget and hope to have more funds put towards towards that loan debt. Scott or Ryan, please feel free to interrupt if you guys want to comment on any of these issues.
Yeah, I was just for anybody new to this issue, understand that as a state, we borrowed almost $1 billion during the pandemic to be able to pay people on unemployment. There has been CARES money and some ARPA money used to pay that debt down, but it's still about $475 million, as Nicole brought up. And all they're putting is $40 million. So we're not happy as an association and business associations. That shouldn't be put on the businesses. It's not a restaurant issue, it's a business issue. All businesses in Connecticut will have to pay down this debt if we can't find other solutions. And it's frustrating. Just so you guys know, you read in the paper about all the things that the state is doing, with extra money and surplus and everything else. They're not fixing this issue. We've had press conferences. We've been working in conjunction with Chris DiPatimi at CBIA and his whole team. This isn't going to go away. You're going to feel it a little bit this next year. But the problem is you're going to feel it over the next 5 years. They're going to try to have the business community pay this debt off in the next 5 years or 4.5 years. And that is something that I just don't feel is right. And we're going to continue to be vocal about it. But just the insider baseball, we are one of only 11 states that have a trust to pay back. Everybody else, those other 39 states across the country, use their funds or weren't in a bad place and have paid it off. So, and I've heard rumors that we might be down to like 6 or 7 by the end of this year that are left. So just shows when you talk about business friendly and the challenges of running a business in Connecticut, you'll now have to pay an extra added tax because the unemployment is insolvent and we have to pay back the federal government, but we're not using all the other money. Not to get everybody wound up on a Wednesday morning, but that's other things that we fight and do. And yes, they're putting 40 million, which is better than zero. But we're not happy by any stretch because 40 million is really only about a little less than 10% of what's left to pay off. So you'll hear more about this. But again, as you hear outdoor dining and you hear alcohol to go, you hear some of these bigger things. These are other things that we work on a year-round basis and try to partner with other business associations because we want to make our state business friendly, and economic recovery is huge. And I can tell you that David Lehman and many others have heard from me on this and will continue to hear from me about trying to find a solution to this, because I do not believe our business community should have to pay this down. So sorry to be fired up on a Wednesday, Nicole, but making sure everyone kind of understands the history of where we are and how it compares to other states.
Understood. I will move on to consumer data privacy. For those who are unfamiliar with this, consumer data privacy is a concept that essentially sets privacy protection standards for data controllers and processors. It's a complicated issue. Connecticut is now the 5th state to pass such legislation behind California, Virginia, Colorado, and Utah. Our legislation in Connecticut gives consumers essentially the right to access, delete, and obtain a copy of their personal data, and also to opt out of the processing of their own personal data, things such as targeted advertising. It also allows the Attorney General to bring an action to enforce this legislation. To be impacted by this legislation, you have to have essentially 100,000 consumers per year. And so for the small business industry, for the restaurant industry, what does that mean? It means you would have to gather the personal information of 100,000 customers per year. And by gather that information, it means 100,000 unique visitors to your website, 100,000 unique data collection by people who come in and give you their name and phone number for a reservation, people who make a reservation on your website, people who visit your website, people who might visit a menu on your website, those kinds of things. So based on the discussions we've had with many restaurants across the state, many will have to comply with this. So one of our big concerns here was that restaurants would be liable for lawsuits brought by the Attorney General. And while these aren't private right of action lawsuits, we are still concerned that the Attorney General could be suing restaurants. Granted, it's a CUTPA violation and it's not as serious. We were very concerned about liability for restaurants. And so we worked with the proponents of the bill in the Connecticut State Senate and the National Restaurant Association, who was very helpful to us to essentially carve out any liability issues for small businesses. So we felt we put restaurants and all small businesses in the best place they could be when this law goes into effect, which is not until next year. So I'm sure as we get further into this legislation, which was actually signed by the governor yesterday, the CRA will put out some more detailed information on what it means and how restaurants need to comply. I think we've found that most companies that you all use as vendors that host your websites will be making it very easy for you to comply with it. We all see those the privacy language when we visit different websites. We knew this was passing. They've been at it for about 3 years trying to get something passed in the Connecticut legislature. So we just wanted to make sure that we're all in the best position to be protected under that legislation. Ryan or Scott, if I missed anything, feel free. If not, I'll move on to Fair Work Week. So Fair Work Week, the scheduling bill, is something that's probably been around for 6 or 7 years. It's legislation that would require certain businesses to post the schedule of employees 14 days ahead of time. If you change that schedule, you'd be penalized if you change it within 7 days. It's pretty targeted towards retail and restaurants. The penalties would be paying those employees if you were to change their schedule. It's had different iterations for the past 6 or 7 years. It did not pass the legislature this year. Similar to last year, the bill was close to passing. It's a priority of the Working Families Party and some legislators at the Capitol. The leaders of the Labor Committee are very focused on this, and they've worked very hard to get something to pass the past couple of years. This year, the bill would have been very targeted for the restaurant industry to large national chain restaurants and franchises. So we would have seen our Dunkin' members, whether you had 1 store or 20 stores, our Buffalo Wild Wing franchises, or our national chains would have been the ones that would have been mostly impacted by this legislation. It will be back next year. It's my belief it will be back until something passes. Captive audience is a piece of legislation that did pass this year. For those who are unfamiliar with that, this is legislation that essentially prohibits employers from requiring employees to attend meetings where politics or religion are discussed. This is an effort to prohibit employers from requiring employees to attend meetings where unionization is being discussed when there's an attempt to unionize in the workplace. There is a belief that this is going to be, there's going to be a lawsuit now that this bill has become law, and that it will be struck down, that this is illegal and unconstitutional. Our former Attorney General in Connecticut, George Jepson, years ago had sent a letter to the Connecticut General Assembly telling them they could not pass this. It was in fact something they couldn't do, and they did not pass it. This year's version is a little bit different. They went ahead and passed it, and we're going to see where the chips fall. I expect CBIA to file this lawsuit pretty soon. Ryan, if there's something I missed on here, feel free to chime in. We haven't thought it was an issue that was going to impact small restaurants. I think there are some national chains that might have some labor organizing going on that might be impacted by this at this point in time, but time will tell, and I'm not sure how long this lawsuit's going to take.
Yeah, Nicole, I think that you're right on about that. But I think that, and certainly you're correct about the impact of federal law, and this is almost certainly preempted by the National Labor Relations Act. However, I think it's the reason why members should still take note and be concerned about this is I think it shows that our politicians in the state are committed to creating a very fertile ground for labor organizing, and that just because our 3, 4, 2 store, even 1 store folks aren't being targeted, our independent operators aren't being targeted, there is currently a revitalization within the labor movement, and I think that they obviously work hand in glove with some of our friends in the General Assembly to create a fertile ground for organizing. And I think if our members aren't paying attention to it now, we might wind up with a situation where 3 or 4 years down the road, the union comes knocking and they're fighting a battle where they have the upper hand because of whatever bills pass between now and then. So I think it's important that we recognize that the labor bills that we push back on now could have a big impact on where we are in 3 or 4 years if labor comes knocking on our members' doors.
Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, I think that's all important. Captive audience is a pretty big issue. It was evident from the beginning of session. This was the labor movement's #1 issue, and also evident that it was likely to pass the legislature this session.
Hey,
we'll
Nicole,
Yeah.
I was just going to chime in for everyone to understand that, we do not have any, restaurant union employees right now currently in our state. However, almost on every labor issue, scheduling, obviously the captive audience bill, minimum wage, every time we go up to the Capitol and I'm there, Nicole is there, the labor unions, chime in. They've got, they feel they represent all of your employees. They don't, but they say that they do. They represent every employee in Connecticut. This is something that has been, at the forefront of challenges since I started. This isn't a Connecticut issue. This is other states as well that you're going to start to see things. You've probably seen in the news about Starbucks and the unionization push at a national level. You've seen some things at a couple other locations, other national chains, but it is definitely something we in Connecticut have to keep a close eye on, to Ryan's point, because I hate to say this, but I somehow get that flag of being the California of the Northeast in Connecticut. Of we are one of probably 5 or 6 states that the labor unions will like to try to put bills out and push, just like captive audience. This is only the second time something of a version like this, or something in Oregon that is still trying to be struck down, that we're the only second state to pass a bill like this. So know that we're not even like Mass or New Jersey or New York. We actually, that's why it's so vital that you as members stay in touch and know what is going on and work with our team, because it's much bigger issues than this. And it's going to continue to show across the country, not only at national chains, but independent restaurants, independent restaurant groups over the next, couple of years to it's a trend that's always frustrating to me when we deal with an issue and they ask the labor unions for a comment. And like I like to tell the media, they don't represent our industry. So why are we allowing them to comment on our industry or their take on it, which is where the frustration lies. And that's just where we are in Connecticut. So everyone that's kind of new to this understands the challenges ahead that we're going to continue to be faced with.
Okay, we'll move from labor issues to styrofoam. There's been a bill floating around the legislature for the past few years to ban polystyrene, the use of polystyrene, which is styrofoam, in schools and restaurants. It did not pass this year, but it would have phased out the use of styrofoam to-go containers. It's a priority of some of the pro-environment legislators. I thought it was going to pass this year. We kind of backed off as we've let legislators know that this is something the industry is phasing out. It's not really a big deal with the restaurant industry. Most restaurants are not using styrofoam, polystyrene anymore. They still wanted to pass legislation and make a stand and use this bill. It didn't pass. It sat on the House calendar for the last couple of days and was not acted on. So it'll be back again next year. In the liquor world this year, not a lot went on. It was kind of a quiet year. There were 2 bills that passed that were mostly technical in nature. If anyone wants to know all about them, I will put together a detailed report for Scott to share with you all, but nothing to waste anyone's time on today. If you have specific questions, feel free to reach out to me, but it really shouldn't impact anyone here, so I won't go through it all. Alcohol to go. Most of you will remember last year, well, there was an executive order, and then last year we passed a bill to allow the continuation of alcohol to go from the governor's executive order during the pandemic. There was a sunset date on that. So it was a bill that was passed for 3 years. So in 2024, that will sunset restaurants selling alcohol to go. So in January, we will go back to the Committee of Cognizance and ask that they make that permanent rather than have a sunset date on it. I'm not sure what kind of pushback we will have at that point. I do know that some other states have made it permanent since their executive orders and since they had it for a year or two, and it seems that customers enjoy it. And for some restaurants, it's quite popular, for others, not so much, but there hasn't been any issues with it. And so we're going to go back and ask that it be made permanent. That is a wrap on the big issues that we dealt with this year. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take them. Otherwise, we will be out there summer and fall talking to legislators, candidates, and getting prepared for, I can't believe I'm saying this already, but for session again in January.
I don't see a whole lot in the chat, which could be like our quickest webinar, which is, I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing. Nicole, thank you. Ryan as well. For those, that are new to the CRA and knowing, even in a short session, the amount of hours of work that has to go into, these are kind of a quick list, but we're tracking at any probably point in time, Nicole, probably well over 100 bills throughout session at all times. Especially the last couple nights of session when things are passing fast and furious, of making sure, like even the styrofoam piece that we thought would go through did not. What captive audience means, I put alcohol to go on there just so you guys know it's not permanent, but you can continue to do it through 2024, and we will bring that up to see if we can make that permanent like other states next session. But no, it was, it's hard to say, did you have a successful session or not? I still think at the end of the day, when you look at it from a 30,000 foot view down, very, very successful, but it still wasn't everything I wanted. Outdoor dining was a big win. The way that it was written and getting done without question. The UI stuff could have been a heck of a lot more, and I'm very, very frustrated. But to be able to keep the scheduling bill away, it was very important, but we'll be dealing with the captive audience, give or take. We'll see what happens in the courts and how that's going to affect you guys. But it was a successful session and a short session, in my opinion, and a lot of that has to go to Nicole and her efforts from the beginning of getting the things we needed. And we need to continue to be a voice and loud up there. Even with COVID, it was challenging. Nicole wasn't even allowed on the 3rd floor to deal with the Senate. Hopefully that starts to go away. Hopefully we can, when we have major issues, we can do press conferences and we can be inside the building with restaurateurs. So you guys can see the fun times, that we deal with when we go into the LOB or the state capitol. So I don't think Dave Retigliano is on, but obviously I wanted to personally thank Dave as a representative, but also a restaurateur that is on many committees. Somehow he's still on labor, which I feel bad that he has to be on that and deal with the challenges there. But he's a huge advocate for our industry. When I just look at some of these bills and the work and the effort he put in to help us as well as Senator Formica. As you guys know, his daughter Olivia is actually on our board, Flanders Fish Market down in East Lyme. Senator Formica is actually not rerunning, which I've tried to talk him into maybe one more term. But he's done so much as a restaurateur and a member of the Senate. He is going to be missed. And I end with that, besides just these individual issues, understanding how important these midterm elections are going to be. Everyone that's on this call, you have a rep in your district where you live and in the districts where your restaurants are. Get to know them. Get to know who's running. Get to know their take on business related issues. That's what we do at the CRA. We don't get into the weeds of some of the other major national issues. It's about making it easier to run your business. And I'm happy to introduce you, or also if you have relationships, but this election is very, very important at a local level. I said this the other day to my board that, while you want to talk about the governor's race, while you want to talk about, some of the Senate delegation seats, yes, they're important. But just so you guys know, not to get into the kind of the difference of partisan versus bipartisan, it's truly partisan in Connecticut. It's fully Democrat, but also so you guys know our House is about 98 to 56, or my numbers could be slightly off. And the Senate is right now, I think 24 to 12. So there's super majorities in both. We all know that it's always better when there's a balance. And that is why it's so critical, whether it's even Republican, but also moderate Democratic viewpoints on business is going to be critical when you go to the ballot box in November. And making sure you're not just, oh, well, it's a local person, that's fine. They came to my restaurant, I voted for them. Like, I need for each of you guys, that's my kind of ask of you today, is to get involved of knowing who is running at a local level for either a state Senate seat or a representative seat, and knowing where their issues lie. And I'm happy, I give you probably 3 questions you could ask them and find out where their stance is on things, because it's going to be critical. Because when you look back 4 years ago, we had an 18-18 Senate, truly balanced, much easier, much less challenging or worry of bills that were coming out. I don't think it passed, but just to think about the crazy bills that come out at us. There's a gift card bill where they wanted to increase. So if you guys know, if someone had $5 or less on a gift card, they were able to walk into your restaurant and you had to pay them cash. Just like things like that they just create bills and want to pass. Like, these are the challenges of, they don't know how to run your business. They think they do. And that's what's scary, and making sure our job is to protect small businesses and represent the business community. So we'll continue with other webinars as we get closer to the election, but just so you guys start to get prepared. We're only 4 months out of starting to know within your races, are people rerunning? Are they getting primaried in certain, districts, or also, are there new candidates, and where their take is on it and how you could potentially support them. So I'll end there. Nicole, thank you. Ryan, thank you for your guys' time and effort. This is a small group this morning. There's only about 40 plus of us on here. So I'm happy if anybody wants to unmute themselves and ask a question, whether it's a federal, local, state, with the 3 of us on the call, or anything for the CRA. I hope to see everybody at the golf tournament couple weeks in 7 weeks, which will be a great event. So please support that. And if you don't play golf, it's okay. You can buy dinner tickets or a T sign. But any questions?
Scott, I'm going to jump in with a non-legislative, more of a housekeeping comment. Just so everybody knows, for members, we load this video every time we do webinars. We load the link in the member portal so you can access it at any time. Of course, we do send it out when you register, whether you're a member or a non-member, we do send that link out. But just so members know, It's always available in the resources link in your member portal.
Wow, it's quiet on a Wednesday. No one wants to talk about inflation, supply chain, worker shortage, other things. I mean, I guess the other comment I'll make on a media side, making sure you guys are aware that, you know, we're nowhere near out of the woods. I think the line of the week down in DC came from Keith Bollier. He said, you know, every time I think that I see light at the end of this tunnel, I actually realize it's a freight train coming back at me. And that's what you guys are dealing with right now. It's great to see people inside your restaurants as I travel around the state, but I also know it's so hard to try to turn a profit right now with the challenges you're faced with. And we're just trying to find every way that we can to help with solutions to that as an association. So I feel for that. I understand that, you know, we're just trying to do everything we can to make sure that messaging is clear, because perception doesn't equal reality. People just see full restaurants and are like, everyone's fine. You're not. So I have just emails on there if you guys need to email somebody directly a question. And nothing. Scott, thank you. Hope you're doing well. I don't want to call people out. Tim had a fun comment earlier.
Tim always has fun comments.
He does. Just make sure everyone's alive. They can hear. I feel like.
Great job, Scott.
Thanks, Doug. Anything else? Thanks, Chris. All right. Well, if you guys don't have any specific questions, you know where to find us. As always, you know, I hope these webinars are helpful. I just think it's a little bit easier to do these, you know, once a month, just to kind of give you guys a lay of what's going on all these different levels than trying to have millions of calls or emails. So I appreciate you spending, you know, 50 minutes to 60 minutes throughout this. Hey, Libby, I didn't see that you're on. Great to see you on here as well. But yeah, please don't hesitate to reach out. But we'll continue to do these. And if you guys, you know, start to come up, don't think there's never a bad question to ask us of support. You know, I think people lose sight of that, you know, we go all the way down to the local level. If you're dealing with something, you're dealing with an agency or something that is just taking too long, or, you know, those are other things that we can help with. So staffing. Yes, Martha, I couldn't agree more. You know, and trying to find some solutions. Obviously, federal, I don't think is going to happen anytime soon. We're trying to figure out some other ways for workforce development and help on the state level of where people are and this isn't just a restaurant issue, as you guys know, every industry is dealing with it. But couldn't agree more, Martha. All right, well, have a great Wednesday, everybody. I hope you guys have a great weekend. The weather looks fantastic. Hopefully you guys are getting your outdoor spaces all ready to go. Again, any issues with that, let us know. And we look forward to talking and seeing everybody in a few weeks. Thank you.